August 3rd.
Border violence continues to escalate, and drug cartels show no signs of letting up.
Yeah, on Friday, a funeral was held for U.S. Border Patrol agent Robert Rosas, who was shot and killed last month. That funeral being held in El Centro this last Friday. And this morning, we are talking with Congressman Brian Bilbray about what the U.S. is doing to help stop border violence. We talked to him in the past hour, and again, we are talking to him here in just a few moments. But you may have seen the newspaper this weekend showing that dramatic picture of Rosas's wife at the funeral. And
and the television reports this weekend covering the funeral. Just such a tragedy for the family. And I can only imagine what the Border Patrol agent, his comrades, are thinking. Joining us right now live at the border fence is Congressman Bilbray. And Congressman, what are you hearing from the ranks of the Border Patrol? They must just be so outraged and saddened by this.
Well, Senator, as you know, they take it personal because they're practically family. In one way or the other, people rotate through and meet different people. They can obviously see themselves. But, you know, we forget that just a few years ago, you had 2 Border Patrol agents that were put in prison in Texas because they fired at a smuggler. And a lot of people said, oh, well, that was so terrible. But they forget, this is a free fire zone. You've got the same areas of Texas where Agent Ramos and Campion were arrested for firing at a drug smuggler. You had agents being, fired on with fully automatic machine guns. And so I just think that we've got to remember these agents got a tough job. They handle just hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people that don't mean harm, that are basically just trying to get into the country illegally. But it just takes one smuggler, just takes one person to create this kind of tragedy. And that's why we can't just say, oh, well, let all the illegals in or let the ones who aren't violent in. You can't pick and choose between this because you don't know which one is the one carrying that gun that could kill an agent or an innocent bystander at any time. That's why you really need to shut down all the illegal traffic along the border if you're really going to stop these kind of tragedies from happening, not just along the border, but in places like Chula Vista.
You know, Congressman, we hear so much about that here in San Diego and perhaps in Texas and Arizona, but sometimes we feel sort of isolated. Is Washington listening to this? What are they doing? What's going on there?
Dave, you're right. And, San Diegans, we need to get, if we can't get the message of Washington, who else is going to carry it? So that's why I've tried to work with people like in Phoenix, where their violence is getting really bad, and being brave enough to stand up on the House floor, go to the president's people, and say flat out, look, you can talk all you want about Afghanistan and Iraq, but we've got this problem in our own backyard, and quit ignoring it. That's one big reason why I went to the House floor and gave a presentation and a reminder to the Speaker of the House that Agent had just been murdered. And nobody was really thinking about the family and all the agents that are out here. So Rosas is just an example of men and women that are serving every day along the border and basically are not only not being recognized, but being attacked and ridiculed for doing a job that is very dangerous, very tough. And I just think that the people that always want to find an excuse to badmouth the Border Patrol agents should have gone to that funeral, should watch that, look in the eyes of the wife that is not going to have her husband coming home anymore, and tell me about the fact that we don't have a problem. We shouldn't get serious about our, securing our borders. If nothing else, for the men and women that we ask to defend our borders and be put on the front line, let alone the neighborhoods across this country that are being exposed to these kind of people.
Another issue that is in the news today, Congressman, is the new border inspection, how more cars, every car that crosses to and from the border will be inspected, and there's concerns about the traffic tie-ups and that sort of thing. What is your take on that?
Well, I think that's just one of those things we have to do. And, people will say, well, I'm worried about it may slow down my crossing. And let me just tell it to anybody, as somebody that grew up on the border, I used to go spend a lot of time down in Baja just personally. The days of being able to just cross the border willy-nilly are over with, at least for a while. And if we ever want to see a day that the good things get to cross the border without being slowed down, we got to be willing in the next couple of years to go through a tough period of securing the border, shutting down the illegal activity, and winning this one on both sides of the border. Don't think that we can just wait for it to come on our side. And these kind of checks are an essential part of this issue.
Well, Congressman, I know we're concentrated on the border, but one other huge issue right now is that Cash For Clunkers program, the House passing last week, another $2 billion that moves on to the Senate this week. What's your take on this program? Has it been successful?
Well, you got to remember, Dave, we actually did this in San Diego when I was a county chairman back in the 90s. And let me just tell you, we handled it a lot better than the federal government is. I support this program, but the way it's been managed is sort of one crisis to the other. There's a lot of people in Washington right now says, you know, maybe you ought to show us that you can manage getting rid of old cars before you ask us to trust you with managing our health care. So this is a program that hopefully Washington will learn to do well. And I just wish they had done more by working with the local communities and the states and the counties and the cities. Basically, because a lot of us had experience doing these things right, but we're going to give them another shot. They're going to see how they're doing. I think this is a lot better program than giving huge billion-dollar or trillion-dollar bailouts to every industry that comes over whimpering in Washington and asks for a handout. At least this one, we'll be able to see increased mileage, reduced energy, reduced pollution, and hopefully some economic stimulus that really matters. Creating jobs rather than just paying people not to work.
Well, they do still need $2 billion to keep it going. What do you think the chances are that the Senate will approve that?
Well, you never know about the Senate. We call them the House of Lords in the House of Representatives, and they earn their title.
All right. Congressman Bilbray, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time down there on the border.
As always, thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy your day.
The House of Lords.